You probably know me as an iPhone user, but over the last 3 months, I've been using this. It's been a fascinating experiment. Yes, I know I'm late to the party with the Galaxy Z, and we do say Z in this country, Z Fold4. Everyone else has reviewed it again and again and again. The reason I haven't done that is because one, when it first came out, I had better things to spend nearly £2,000 on, and two, I genuinely didn't think that enough people would have interest in this. Turns out I'm pretty stupid, and lots of people are very interested in this phone. And bearing in mind I'm normally an iPhone user, I'm going to tell you what I love about the Z Fold4, what I don't love about it, and whether or not I think Apple should make a folding phone. Right after I've spoken about today's sponsor, which is Caseaku and their magic stand case for the iPhone. This is a brilliant case in its own right. It only adds 2mm of thickness to your iPhone, comes in lots of different colours, it's nice and solid and well made and protects your phone, but it has this thing as well, which is a stand built into the case. It's rated to over 30,000 openings, it's very secure, and I use it for watching stuff while I'm eating lunch. I put it on the floor and pretend to work out for these videos, and it's one of those things that you don't know you need until you get your hands on it. It's even got a 48-piece magnet structure built into the case, which means yes, your MagSafe stuff will still work. I love finding accessories like this which are fairly normal looking on the outside, but they have something really interesting built into them. And the best news is I've worked with Caseaku to get you a 10% discount on any order. So, to check out their magic stand case for the iPhone and grab yourself that tasty discount, click the link in the description. So let's get the big elephant out of the room first of all, because you're probably wondering, did I really switch to the Z Fold4 for 3 months from my iPhone? No. When a tech reviewer like myself says I'm switching from the iPhone to this phone, we don't mean we're actually physically switching to it completely. We can't do that. I can't do that because one, I review lots of different phones, and two, the iPhone still plays a vital role in my production process. If I take this out of the production process, it will take me longer to make videos and everything will fall apart. It's that important. I'm overdoing that completely, but I'm just scared of getting rid of the iPhone totally. That's the honest truth. But when I have an Android phone to test out, I do everything I can to use it as much as possible. And over the last 3 months, bar using this for my normal kind of tasks in the production environment, I've taken this phone out more than any other. More importantly, I've got a drawer over there which is full of phones that I don't use. Most review phones get chucked into that quite quickly. I've had no inclination whatsoever to do that with the Z Fold4, and trust me, that means a lot. Starting with what I love about it, it's just I think, a very handsome smartphone. And I think that goes some way to justifying the cost, which is a lot. You can spend over £2,000 on this if you upgrade it to the 1TB of storage, which is just crazy. It's also very fast. It's powered by a Snapdragon 8 Gen plus 1 something. Anyway, it's powered by a proper chip, which if you live in the UK and you've bought previous S22 Ultras and things like that, you'll know that we quite often get the rubbish Exynos chip. Samsung doesn't put those chips at all into these fold phones. The result is a phone that is very, very snappy, quick, and again, feels premium. It's also one of the most pocketable phones I've ever owned of this size. So the iPhone 14 Pro Max, when you put that in your pocket, particularly these shorts, it kind of sticks out and it's just horrible. This, because it's nice and narrow, slots in perfectly. And what's amazing about that is that when you flip it, flap it, flop it, whatever, when you open it, you get this massive canvas, this absolutely huge screen. And that makes it interesting, which is really important for devices like the Z Fold4. You can multitask on it, which feels very iPad-like, but I don't tend to do that on smartphones, even if they have this great big screen. I just love how fantastic this is as a content consumption device. Whether you're watching YouTube or scrolling through Twitter or using it as a Kindle reader, but whatever you're consuming on this display, it's so satisfying. It's got a great camera as well. All I'd say about the camera is that it's very Samsung. It's typically Samsung. If the conditions are good and everything kind of works out fine, which happens quite a lot in life, it takes some beautiful pictures. A little while ago I took it to Harry Potter World, and I'll put some of the photos from that day on here. It just did a fantastic job in low light. It does occasionally blow out the skies. You know, Samsungs unfortunately have this habit of completely saturating blues and greens, although not all the time, which is weird. If you can look past that, this is a great camera system. And the other thing with the Fold is that it is so satisfying to close when you've done. You know, you finish doing whatever it is that you're doing and you just kind of go, I could keep doing that. However, it's not a complete bed of roses. One of the main bones of contention I have about the Z Fold4 is its price. Like I mentioned earlier, you can spend over £2,000 on it if you go for the 1TB version, but it starts at £1,649 in the UK, and that's for the 256GB version. You're well into expensive iPhone 14 Pro Max territory there, and it does make this a very specialist device for people with loads of disposable income, and that isn't a very big audience. There's also a few technical limitations. The first one is completely unavoidable when you have a device with a folding display, and that is the crease, which you can't get away from. You can see it there. Okay, I've got quite a big light shining on it, but trust me, in everyday life, you see it and feel it all the time. The other issue is that this one has developed a creak when you open it. You may not hear this. You probably can't hear that on the mic, but trust me, it's there. It's a little bit like an old book being opened. That said, this is a review unit, and review units do have quite a tough life sometimes. Not at my hands, obviously, but you know, it does happen. The other thing that I'm not too keen on is the front display, which in isolation is fine. If you're just using it to scroll through your emails and, you know, check out your Twitter feed, it's fine. As soon as you start trying to use the keyboard, the narrowness of this screen makes it almost impossible. Now, Samsung fans have told me that you can change the settings, make it wider and get rid of that issue. I've tried every single setting for the keyboard on this and none of them make it usable. The battery isn't fantastic either. This is a one-day phone in terms of the battery in a world of two-day phones. It's not surprising given what it's doing and the fact it has that massive display. The next version of this does need to last 2 days. And that begs the question, will we ever see a folding flipping iPhone? Don't get me wrong, I would love Apple to make a folding iPhone. It would inject some much needed interest into that product line, but I can't see them doing it. This is for two reasons. One of them is stuff like that crease. Apple will not put up with that. They would not in a million years release a folding iPhone until that isn't a thing. I get that completely, but I think the other issue relates to another device, the iPad mini. Imagine if Apple launched a folding iPhone which has a massive display like that. There isn't a huge difference in size here. If that iPhone had that big display, where does that leave the iPad mini? And more importantly, what happens with the crossover between iOS and iPadOS if you have this weird device in between? And I know that if Apple launched a folding iPhone next week, myself and many other reviewers would, one, praise them for doing something interesting with the iPhone finally, and two, blame them for cannibalizing the iPad mini. Us reviewers are a bit like that, we're a bit annoying, so Apple can't win really. So I can't see Apple doing this for quite a long time, if ever. Having said that, my time with the Z Fold4 has been absolutely fantastic. I think if you've got the money, if you like interesting tech, and you're a fan of Samsung, in fact, if you're just a fan of tech in general, you want, you know, interesting things to play with, pick one of these up. And if you're an Apple fan, I would love to know if you think Apple should make a device like this. Let me know in the comments. If you want to see my comparison between the S23 Ultra and the iPhone 14 Pro Max, keep watching for a link to that video.